What's happening, y'all? Flash Speaks back, man. Another video. Yeah, it's been a lot going on right now. I ain't really been able to watch everything like I really want to, man. Like, I've been busy running around doing a whole bunch of stuff. And it's still Ramadan. It's the end of the month. So, I've been doing a lot of spiritual activities and stuff like that, man. So I haven't really had time like I want. But yeah, Asante Samuel though, he claps back, and hey man, I gotta respect that. I gotta respect his spirit. He 10 toes down, with this belief that he's either prime times level or Deion Sanders, or he's better than him, whatever. And my man said, I'm Fort Lauderdale. We don't get down like that. Listen, I don't know nothing much about Florida. Only been there for Disney World before, and I've been there another time to go to the beach. Never been to Miami. Don't know a lot about the culture, but some of the brothers, I've dealt with who from there, I like their spirit and all that. And I like the energy Asante comes with this. But the one thing I wanted to point out, man, is that Asante, for me in this situation, he's the ultimate evidence of something that I always say oftentimes on this channel, and that's the old adage, man, the old Bill Belichick adage, of stats, being for losers, man. It's something that Bill Belichick would always say, and it's something he ain't invented. It's something, man, that is just a traditional wisdom thing. You know what I mean? Stats are for losers. And I think Asante Samuel is really making the biggest case for that. And why this is important is because we live in an age right now, where people want to compare stats, and they act like, stats don't lie. Stats, somehow just end the argument when it comes to things. So I could pull up, for example, the LeBron James argument. You'll have people that really will just say, hey, look, 40,000 points, X amount of rebounds, such and such, versus, Kareem, who didn't score that, or Kobe, or even Mike Jordan, and stuff like that. And try to act like, that's just the end of the argument. You get that same thing against guys like Jalen Hurts, where, someone gonna say, hey, look, man, Dak Prescott passed for 4,000 yards. Because of that means he's better than Jalen Hurts. I've heard these types of things, So you have a guy that'll say that a guy like Phillip Rivers, like you use the same argument, you would say Phillip Rivers better than a guy like John Elway. Because John Elway, he don't have all these years of 4,000 yards, this and all of that. And like, people think that these are the answers. And what I'm saying is, like, this was never what people looked at like that in the past. This is some new stuff, man. And I'm not even talking about an era thing where, now you supposedly pass more than in the past and all that kind of stuff, because all those things can be debated. They all can be debated, man, if you really take the time to do your research. And if you remember, I remember, and the reason why I say that, man, is I never bought into, and then I'm gonna get to the side of the same thing, whatever. I never bought into this whole thing. Oh, there used to be a running era. Now it's just a passing era. Used to be, like, come on, man. Like, bro, I remember when I was a little kid, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on a football field was the offense of the San Diego Chargers back in the early 80s, man. Like, my older brother used to love the Chargers. Led by Dan Fouts, and it was Don Coryell's offense, Eric Coryell. Dan Fouts used to pass for 4,000 yards back in like 82 and 83. Dan Marino, when he had Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, he passed for 5,000 yards back in like 84 or 85, like his second year in the league. You know what I'm saying? Now the difference was those teams weren't winning Super Bowls, bruh. Like, those Chargers, they did all that. But then they turn around and lose to the Bengals in 81. You know, they turn around and lose to the Bengals and Ken Anderson. You know, and like because of the cold and all these other things. So I never did get into all that. But people who think like, you know, the stats is just the answer to everything, they will tell you like they must believe that a dude like Dan Fouts better than a dude like Joe Montana because, you know, winning don't mean nothing because winning is a team thing. So the only thing that's going to tell what you are is just your stats. And, bro, we all know that's BS, man. We know that's bull crap. We know that's bull crap. And it's bull crap because when you actually watch games, there are things taking place, moments in games, where certain guys execute, like a guy like Joe Montana executed in certain ways that led to wins where maybe Marino or Fouts, you know, didn't. You know, even like a lot of these offenses, empty backfield offenses, no fullback, you know, we saw the Houston Oilers playing like that with Warren Moon. You know, he had Drew Hill, he had Ernest Gibbons, he had who was the other ball? He had 4 wide receivers they would use. Haywood Jeffries. And the other guy name is escaping me right now. You know, they played like that, man. He would pass for 4,000 yards a year and all that kind of stuff. But they weren't winning Super Bowls. They turned around and that offense didn't help them against the Bills, where their backup quarterback Frank Reich come in there and beat them in a 38-point deficit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, though I love Warren Moon, one of my favorite quarterbacks, that's just be for real. He didn't win. You know, and I'm saying, my point is, I'm not going to say he's better than a dude that won all types of Super Bowls because of stats. Now, at the same time, you compare things, right? Because rings don't tell the whole story. Neither do stats. That's why you compare all that stuff, and then you make a conclusion. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and say Eli Manning is better than Dan Fouts or he better than Warren Moon. He's not. We know one dude more talented and was more consistent, but for whatever reason, he didn't win. Maybe defense wasn't good enough. You know, it does factor in the other teammates, but there's certain guys that win consistently because they just know how to do it, whereas other guys don't. Now, back to what Asante Samuel, he's actually the perfect guy to show the ridiculousness of that type of approach to it. He want to sit here and say he better than Deion because Deion had, you know, his best season had like 6 or 7 interceptions. So he want to say because he had 9 interceptions in a season or 10 interceptions in a year, another time, that makes him better than Deion. You know what I mean? Without looking at the fact that Deion wasn't tested as much as him because quarterbacks feared him, right? These are the intangible things that they describe the reality of what was happening out there. And for me, that's always going to be better than, you know, just looking at just a stat sheet. Stat sheet, man, can lie. Or it can not tell you everything. It cannot tell the whole story. You know, they don't lie they don't lie necessarily, meaning you really did get those interceptions and all that, but they don't tell the whole story. The whole story is told by those who witnessed it. You know, and we all know just from witnessing it that there is no comparison between Deion and Asante Samuel. You know, it just is what it is, man. So, tell me what y'all think, man. Peace out.